Hi everybody, it is that time of week again. It is time to talk about the truth about weight loss. So of course, over the past couple of weeks, we talked a little bit about the science behind weight loss and whether or not short-term goals, long-term goals, what the difference is, how to do it. But tonight is one of those topics that I really like to talk about because I get so frustrated with people when they talk about when they see people with drastic, quick results of weight loss. So let's talk a little bit about that. For somebody who's actually accomplished that herself and full on realizes that I have to make choices that make an overall lifestyle, and I work with clients one-on-one especially, and I really focus on making changes that last a long time. Hi, Leanna. Versus sorry, I've got multiple things popping up on my screen, so it gets a little distracting. But really, it is about taking the time to reach those habits, those goals, and not fight your body on how this works. So we're going to talk a little bit about drastic diets and why I find that they're super dangerous. And really, in the long run, they don't get you to your goal. They usually don't even get you to your initial short-term goal, but they definitely don't keep you reaching your long-term goals, which at least for me is I want to feel good, I want to feel healthy, and I want to have energy. And granted, yeah, there's times when I want to lean out a little bit and I want to be a little bit smaller and leaner. Notice that I don't say way less. Hello, Eric. I really want to be leaner. There's a big difference. I don't like the word skinny. I find that's a 4-letter word. But it's about being healthy and doing so in that process. So keep that in mind. And when we talk about low calorie diet, so let's talk about why. Now, this topic came up recently because I had a client who is seeing results, at least in her pictures, in her clothes, but the scale really isn't moving. And so she's a little, unmotivated from that. And we had to kind of take 2 steps back and talk about her friend, who of course is seeing drastic results because I don't know what she's doing, but obviously you can see drastic results when you do a drastic low calorie diet or one of these crazy, stupid fads that go on, right? I mean, if you look back over the years, you see cycles of these stupid diets, resurfacing. But if you pay attention to the research, most of them show that in the long term, that they don't work because multiple things. We're going to talk about that. Here's why they don't work, kind of thing. So if you think about low calorie diets, now it depends on the person, right? Because the scientific term is that anything under 1,200 calories is low calorie, and then they actually have some listings for very low calorie, which of course, we're going to talk about how I feel about some of those doctor-induced very low-calorie diets, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But if you think about it, low calories it can do some major damage to your metabolism. I don't know if any of you, I grew up learning to diet and doing the yo-yo diet thing where, you sacrifice and you kill it for a few weeks, and then you realize that mentally and emotionally, that low-calorie diet is unsustainable. You feel like you're sacrificing everything, and pretty soon what happens is maybe you made some great progress, but you go backwards because you return to old habits because it's not sustainable. That's the biggest part of it, is it's not sustainable. Because remember that whatever you do to get to your goal, you have to keep doing to stay there. And I know very few people that think, you know what, I'm going to get to my goal size, goal weight, whatever, and then I really want to go right back to where I was and gain some extra, right? Who says that? Nobody, right? So if you think about it, yo-yo diets already, we know that they don't work. And to me, the word diet actually just means what you technically eat on a regular basis. But of course, here in the States, it's come to basically mean eating in such a way that you can lose weight or reach a goal. And so it's unfortunate because I don't call them diets anymore. I call them meal plans because it's got such a bad rap, right? So unfortunately, we can't even talk about diets in a positive fashion because most people will agree that they don't work, at least over long term. And those very low calorie diets do some serious damage. If you think about it, first of all, your body does not know the difference between a diet and starvation. It just assumes, oh my God, she's not feeding me enough food. What am I gonna do about this? Well, I'm gonna retain everything I possibly can because I don't know when she's gonna eat again. So that alone is a huge problem. If you think about 1,200 calories, and for some odd reason, that's become the number, that when everybody goes on a diet, that's what they strive for. You guys, 1,200 calories is the minimum amount of calories a person is supposed to eat in order to not have serious consequences from starvation. And there are. Google starvation issues and see what pops up. It's going to talk about all of the major things that happen when somebody is starving or not feeding their body enough nutrients. It can be as minimal as things like, feeling nauseated, fatigue, headaches, especially, to as extreme as, fatal situations, heart issues. I've heard of people losing their hair. I've been in a position, even in prep, where my body wasn't receiving enough nutrients at the time, and I couldn't stop crying. I literally emotionally couldn't function on a basis. Fix the issue, obviously, but there's some scary things that can happen for that. And if you're trying to work any semblance of a job, or be mom or dad or coach or whatever, you're going to really struggle with that because you're not giving your body the energy that it needs to function. Now, for people who really think, okay, well, I have enough energy on my body in the form of fat, okay, that's great, but you have to teach your body that it needs to burn that, and that's not by starving yourself. That doesn't work. So one of the biggest problems that people have, and of course, if you listen to last week, I talked about short-term goals versus long-term goals, but even in the short-term goal category, you still have to be careful not to starve yourself, because again, it does some metabolic damage. So number one, the biggest issue that can come from diets, especially drastic low-calorie diets, is that you really mess up your metabolism. If you think of your body like a thermostat, right? There's a certain weight that it likes to be at. And so it will do whatever. If you eat too much, it'll kind of bounce back right after a while. And if you eat too little, as we know, when we go on those diets, at some point, usually what happens is that it comes back, and sometimes that weight comes back with a vengeance. And that's because our metabolism's trying to work with what we're doing to it. Your body's pretty smart. But you can really do some silly things that can damage your body's ability to run that thermostat, right? One of them comes just from eating a lot of garbage. Especially if you're eating a lot of refined foods, processed foods, refined sugars, your body will actually, it will raise that thermostat because it doesn't create the ability to get those hormones that tell your body you're hungry or you're full, right? That's a problem with sugars and high fructose corn syrup. It actually messes with your ghrelin and leptin levels, which is your hormones that say I'm hungry or I'm full. And so thereby you keep eating that way, and it keeps not telling you, hey, I'm full, I don't need any more food. And all of a sudden, now your weight is no longer here, it's up here. Your thermostat has changed. So you gotta be smart about what you're doing, what you're eating. And to me, one of the biggest problems with low-calorie diets is that those aren't necessarily health foods, right? You're not necessarily eating clean, healthy foods. You're actually eating highly processed garbage. You're just eating a lot less calories overall. So you're totally malnutritioned as well. And that can be a huge problem. You remember, your body doesn't run on calories, it runs on nutrients. That's what it needs. You need vitamins, minerals. That's how your microbiome stays healthy. So if you're not feeding it the foods that it needs, you become malnutritioned extremely quickly, and especially when it's garbage food, it's an even bigger problem. So, you see some of these doctor-run diets, and you know what, doctors, you can all be mad at me. I don't care. I have clients that are doctors. I already know that y'all don't get enough nutrition education. The problem with those low-calorie diets like Ideal Protein and HCG is, number one, they're not sustainable. They're not mentally and emotionally sustainable by the clients that are there. And when they quit and go elsewhere and go back to their old habits, they pack it all back on. If you guys remember The Biggest Loser, you know what? I'm going to say that show inspired me. I started watching that when I was a bigger girl, 210 pounds, and I was so excited. I loved the stories, and the problem is you don't see a whole lot of reunion shows of The Biggest Loser because they've all gained it back. They were extremely low-calorie diets with hours and hours and hours of exercise. They were sequestered to the ranch or whatever the heck they called it, and they weren't taught how to deal with stress and eating healthy in a real situation. They obviously were, it was all right there. They got home to deal with real life and try to implement the strategies, and it was impossible because they were impossible strategies to follow. They were unhealthful strategies as well. Eventually that show got canceled, and of course, like I said, if you talk to or listen to anybody who was part of that show, they will tell you that it was not everything was not as it seemed. And it's unfortunate because a lot of people did some major metabolic damage to their body in that kind of a situation. So, with any kind of a situation where you have a lot of excess energy to burn on your body, meaning a lot of fat stores, you're actually better off to learn intermittent fasting options. Of course, none of them are super extreme, because some of them that are extreme are actually overseen by doctors who understand the situation. But most doctors don't get enough nutrition information or education throughout their education in medicine school, School of Medicine, that I just don't get it. Like, to me, 500 calories for anybody is not enough calories. Again, you're better off to do some sort of intermittent fasting where maybe you fast for a day, because otherwise your insulin levels and some different things, your hormone levels get all messed up. But that's kind of a topic for another time, but just understand that really low calorie diets don't work. When I first start working with clients, the first thing I do is I change their calories, I change their macros, I kind of give them kind of a sample diet to kind of see how they can fit all that food in. And most of them complain it is so much food. And I'm going, yes, but you were eating more than double the calories. You were just eating crap. So when you eat healthy foods, I actually heard something really good just in the last week. It literally said, eat as much food as you can and still lose weight, right? Or again, fat loss. I don't believe in weight loss. Wow, that makes absolute sense. I actually talk about that in cardio, that do as little cardio as you can get away with that still get you the goals you want, because otherwise your body adapts really, really fast and you don't get the results from that cardio. Well, same thing with dieting. Eat as much as you can and still lose weight or still burn fat, because that way you're not crashing your metabolism. Now, you have to pay attention to that as well, because, when you start at one level, here's the deal. I talk about, somebody who's 250 pounds and they start eating 1,200 calories. Okay, but what happens if they lose 50 pounds? Are they going to eat less than 1,200 calories? The smaller the car, the smaller the gas tank. So if you start at a really small gas tank, that's why people plateau. They eat a majorly reduced amount of calories, and then at some point their body stops responding, they stop losing weight. Well, it's because they didn't start at a high enough point calorie intake wise in order to walk themselves down. Even my competitors, like, if you're not eating all your food, I can't walk you down to get on stage because you're not eating enough food to start with. So that's really super important to remember. So we talked about why people will plateau. So if you are doing a ridiculous small amount of calories, you will plateau because you have nowhere to go. When you do tend to do those kind of diets, unfortunately, your body tends to burn muscle over fat because of the protein needs of the body. So I know that sounds counterproductive, because it is, where when you're not getting enough calories, especially not enough protein, your body will actually break down your protein or break down your muscle in order to try to rebuild itself and use them in other ways. So it becomes extremely counterproductive, because you're starving your body of the needs that it has in order to function correctly. Thereby, you stop burning fat, you start burning muscle. That's not really what we want, right? The other big thing is nutrient deficiency. So I just talked a little bit about how, when you're eating those maybe 1,200 calories, it's probably not all health food. And so unfortunately, you're not getting the nutrients that you need. So you're missing the vitamins and minerals that help you to function. And, we've all heard, if you don't eat enough of vitamins A, you can't see as well, or, your immune system runs off of your microbiome's ability to fight off infection. If you don't give it its nutritional needs, it's not going to work. You're going to find you're sick more often. There's problems that come with that. So again, your body doesn't need calories, it needs nutrients. Now, again, some of the side effects of eating so little of calories are minor, but there are some major things that you could do damage-wise to your body. So again, when you start to be miserable and feel the fact that your body is not receiving nutrients, that can be a huge disadvantage to you, no matter what your job is. If you're you might become irritable. That's not a good thing. Again, we're not trying to starve ourselves. It's unfortunate that that's kind of what ends up happening is you're basically starving your body of the nutrients that it needs. But of course, the biggest one is that it's always really, really difficult to stick with. So when you look at what your nutrition should be and what your meal plan should be, whatever you do to get there, you should be able to do for the long term. So, if you're going to do keto, you need to either figure it out and do it long term. Or if it's for a short-term goal, of course, that's okay too, but it shouldn't be drastic. There's a whole thing behind it. You need to follow the rules. The problem with 1,200 calorie or less is that it's literally, not only is it difficult to follow for you, but your body's going to fight you on it, right? Your body has these mechanisms that help you survive. And one of them is if you're starving, your cravings will increase, your attention to food, that's all you can think about. There's research behind this. You know, the Holocaust was a huge issue with starvation. Really, really hard to read about for me because, of course, to me, everybody's important. So that people were treated like that is really a huge struggle for me. But the damage was done. You know, people starved to death. You can see the things that happened because of that. So, yeah, there's no need to go through that. I don't think that it's sustainable. But you know, they learned how the body responded to that. There's actually been studies on people in starvation and the fact that their focus, they can't focus on anything but food, right? I would know during competition prep, I can't seem to stop watching Food Network. So I get that, like to some small degree, I kind of get that. Again, your body will create ways it try to make you eat because it doesn't want you to starve to death. Remember, your body has two goals that you don't even know about. It does it subconsciously. You have no idea. Number one is to avoid pain, and number two is to survive. So again, it's going to do whatever it takes to do that. And of course, the biggest issue from this is because it's not sustainable, everybody's going to rebound from it. And not only are you're not just going to gain the weight back that you've lost, you're going to gain more because you've gone back to the same habits, the same amount of food, the same food patterns of eating. And now you're doing it on a metabolism that's clear down here. So because you haven't what I call reverse dieted back to an ability your body can handle, you're putting nutrients or calories on top of a body that can't handle it, doesn't know what to do with it, and it's gonna hold on to it. So really, if you think about my 2 tips for tonight are pretty simple. Really focus on the efforts and not the results. I mean, the results are important, but I think the results of feeling good, just even shopping for smaller clothes is a huge motivation. So stop focusing so much on what the scale says. Stop worrying about how quickly you do it. It's not how quickly you get there. It's how long can you stay there once you get there. And when you do a drastic diet, you can't stay there. Again, it's not sustainable. It's really important to find balance, life balance, because of course, that changes. It changes over time. You know, where I was when I first started and started understanding how to be healthy is a completely different time in my life than it is now because it's almost 10 years later. It's just different. So find your groove. It might take a while. That's why it's important. You know, again, the beginning of the season, beginning of New Year's resolutions, you might be completely motivated for a couple of weeks. I can hit the gym 5 days a week. I can totally deal with that 1,200 calorie diet. 6 weeks later, it's not so fun. You have to find your groove. You have to figure out what habits are going to get you there. It really does have to become a lifestyle. There is no short-term health benefit to drastically dieting because the negative sides are just way too much. So just keep that in mind. So hopefully that helps. Like I said, I just am trying to educate you that it's ridiculous. Again, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. If it didn't work the first time, why do we keep doing it again? I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. So that's tonight's topic. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully I motivated you to just make some good, healthy choices that get you where you want to go over the long haul. There will not be any Facebook Live next Monday. I will be on a plane. For some odd reason, I wasn't thinking about this when I scheduled it. I will be on a plane coming home, but we'll be back to our topic the following Monday. So have an incredible day, guys. It's almost February. Spring. Hurry, spring. I'm ready to stop being cold now. So have an incredible evening, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.